We have been in this series called Sermon on the Mount, and we're talking about this this first part, this chapter 5 of the Sermon on the Mount, and we've entitled it like getting below the surface, because Jesus is dealing with a group of guys, these scribes and these Pharisees, and he's dealing with these guys who, by all accounts, in action, are really good people, got it all together, and in some ways can look down on the other people that they're around because they're like, listen, I follow all the rules. I do all the things that I can do. And he told us at the beginning, right before when John preached the first sermon, he talked about this idea of like, you've got to be better than the scribes and Pharisees if you want to be with me. Like, if you want to be known to be with Jesus, you have to be better than what these guys are doing. And so all these people are looking and going, well, if I have to be better than them, they act great. And therein lies the real point of all this, and the whole point of like the Sermon on the Mount is getting below the surface and realizing like what you do in front of people, if it doesn't match who you are inside, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so we've been talking through that, this idea of being below the surface, trying to get to where it really matters, and that's inside. And so we're going to continue that today. When I was young, I was a liar. I was good at it. Or actually, I was really bad at it. I thought I was good at it. My dad would tell you, like, I really wasn't good at it at all. And so I would do things, and I find my youngest son doing it too. I'm glad he's not in here, because then he'd get real embarrassed if I was talking about him. But I find him doing the same things. Like, we'll ask him, did you brush your teeth? And he'll go, yeah, I brushed my teeth. Did you brush your teeth? Oh, yeah, I definitely brushed my teeth. I promise. Quinn, did you brush your teeth? No. And he'll walk to the bathroom like, man, we're like, dude, it's brushing your teeth. If you're going to lie about something, make it big. Make it worth your time. And so when I was young, I used to lie about goofy things. I used to lie about some serious things too. I used to change my grades. Anybody ever done that? Change your grades on your report card? Anybody? I'm the only person that's ever done that. All right, I see another hand raised over there. Okay, so I would get my report card, and there would be bad grades on it. And so I would look and I go, all right, I got an F one time, just once. All right, I'm lying. I got Fs quite a bit. And so I got an F one time, and I was nervous to show it to my dad. And he's sitting in here, so he'll vouch for all this. So I was really nervous to show it to him, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, it was written in blue ink, and so I'm going, all right, I can find a blue pen, and I can change an F to a B, and it'll be awesome. And so I did it. So I show it to my dad, and he's like looking at the report. It's like, ooh, that's not bad. It's good. Got a B. Got that's pretty good. And he didn't believe me. He didn't believe me at anything, but he let me think that he believed me. Like, I'm sitting here, and I got this B, and I think I pulled one over on my dad. And so the next day, he calls the school and says, hey, listen, my son said he got a B in this class. And they're like, a B? That kid got an F. And so I'm feeling good. I'm walking home from school. He gets home from work, and he's like, hey, so what about that B in your class? I said, yeah, isn't that good? Isn't that real good, Dad? He's like, listen, I know you changed your grade. And this is, I'm old enough. I grew up in a generation where I got spanked. Like, I don't know if anybody else in this room got spanked, but I got spanked as a youngster, and I got spanked a whole lot as a youngster because I did a lot of stupid things. And this is one of those times where he looked at me and goes, now, why would you change your grade? And I go, I was nervous, like, you're scaring me. Look at this. You're frightening me as we speak. I didn't speak as eloquently as I did. But I'm like, and he starts going, Like, why'd you, And I'm going, what the? I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. He's like, listen, this would have been a lot better. Still would have been bad, but it'd been a lot better if you just told me the truth. Been a lot better if you just told me the truth. I'm like, you're right. But am I grounded? He's like, yeah, you're in trouble. So Telling the truth, sometimes you still get in trouble, right? You do sometimes. But this morning we're going to talk about this idea of, by not being truthful people, how that can be worse on us as adults as we figure out this Jesus thing that we're about. And I'm going to ask you a question. Can you function if you always had to tell the truth? Could you function in all aspects of life if you had to be 100% honest all the time? Maybe. See, the truth affects our relationships with people, right? They do. They affect our relationship and how we interact with people. Because if you're truthful, then they believe what you say. But if they found you to be untruthful, then it affects your relationships. And so at times we disguise the truth so that we can get the upper hand. So that we're able to obtain like an unfair advantage over some people for whatever is able to abuse people's trust, able to disappoint people, all for the sake of our self-interest. Because at the end of the day, we all are about self-preservation. And this is all about self-preservation. So there's this credibility gap between what we say and what we do. And this thing is not new. It's not. See, they've existed since the fall. And it continues to be like one of the biggest things that we have to deal with is this credibility gap that we have. It's a hallmark of human society. We lie to people all the time. They lie to us all the time. And it's no accident that Satan, he's the father of this world. He's the prince of this world. He's a liar. And so it's no accident that his place is full of lies. Matter of fact, in John 8:44, Jesus calls him the father of lies. It shouldn't be surprising to anyone that the system that he heads up, therefore, is characterized by lying. In a New York Times thing recently, it said 91% of people regularly do not tell the truth. 91%. 20% admit that they can't get through a day without a conscious white lie. That's what we do. But then we contrast it with Jesus. And Jesus, there's no compromise with the truth with him. What he says is what he means. And so as we've seen through this Sermon on the Mount and the things that we've been dealing through, we've seen all of this stuff. We've talked through anger, and we've talked through a lot of different things as we've gone through getting below the surface of what's going on in the Sermon on the Mount. How to be better than the scribes and the Pharisees, as he tells us right at the beginning of it. Like, you want to be better than them? Then you start working on all this stuff that we're preaching through over these next few weeks. And so we're going to look at Matthew 5:33 through 37. And I'm going to read it in the Message. We're not going to study it out of the Message. I like the Message just for some, it sounds good a lot of times. So we're going to read through it, but as we kind of study through it this morning, we'll be in a different version than this. But it says this: "And don't say anything you don't mean. This counsel is embedded deep in our tradition. You only make things worse when you lay down a smoke screen of pious talk saying, 'I'll pray for you,' and never doing it, or saying, 'God be with you,' and not meaning it. You don't make your words true by embellishing them with religious lace. In making your speech sound more religious, it becomes less true. Just say yes and no. When you manipulate your words to get your own way, you go wrong." So here's what Jesus is telling us here. He's saying, listen, honesty has been at the forefront of all that I've been talking to you about. Like, this is the backbone of everything that we're teaching, is this idea of honesty. It starts with honesty. And it was always part of God's plan. And then he challenges us in this way of, there's this perversion of teaching, this dishonest oaths and things and stuff that we're gonna talk through in a minute. But then he re-emphasizes this idea that, like, listen, integrity is of utmost importance, and it's like the hallmark of showing who you are in Christ. So we've got that going on there. And so this principle of God's word is honesty. In 5:33, and this is in the New American Standard, Again, you have heard the ancients were told, you shall not make false vows, but you shall fulfill your vows to the Lord. See, the traditional teaching Jesus quotes here is based on the Mosaic Law. So you have like Exodus 20, Leviticus 19, Numbers and Deuteronomy. Both are all are in this little spot. And so he brings a couple words together. He says the first one is false vows, which means basically to perjure oneself or to swear falsely. And then the second one is this idea of fulfilling these vows. Literally means to enclose or bind together. And the truth of an oath is based on this. It's enclosed and bound and therefore strengthened by that which it's been issued by. So like if you say, I swear to the Lord, he's saying like, listen, it's made stronger by what you are binding it to. And so even superficial study of this, even if you just read through it, you'd see that these commandments indicate like plainly in their intention. It's like this prohibit of false swearing or perjury. See, they forbid to make a promise and forbid you to quit breaking it or don't break it. In Hebrews 6:16, it says this. It says, people swear by someone greater than themselves, and the oath confirms what is said and put an end to all argument. See, the name of something gives greater credibility to what it said, right? So an oath calling on God to and invite him to witness the truthfulness of what you're saying. I mean, we've all said that, right? You said, I swear to God. We've all done that, right? I swear. Or maybe you just say, I swear. But it gives more credibility to the truthfulness of what is said, or this avenge if it's a lie. John MacArthur says this. He says, an oath was therefore generally taken to be an absolute truth, which puts an end to all argument because it invited judgment to the one who violated the word. Now we do this all the time, right? We do this all the time where we make little promises and we fail at them. We do all these kind of things and we fail at them all the time. And we don't necessarily think too much about it. We don't necessarily think, well, I mean, I'm being condemned by God now because I just told this, I just promised my wife that I would fold the laundry and I forgot to fold the laundry. Or I told her I would vacuum the floor and I forgot to vacuum the floor. I promised that I would do it and I forgot to do it. And that's why, like in a wedding service, the couple acknowledges God as their witness. See, they recognize and affirm a commitment to honor the special sanctity of marriage that God places there. So the Old Testament is unambiguous. It just is. It tells you exactly what you need to be doing and how to do it and what not to do. There is a place for swearing an oath. There is. But it's not a substitute nor an excuse for not telling the truth at all times. And so God's principle, first and foremost, is honesty. It's honesty. First and foremost. But see, then he's dealing again with these scribes and these Pharisees who are making these oaths and these promises to a group of people and saying all this stuff. And he's dealing with it in a way because it's deceit. Like there's the seed of deceit in all of it. In Deuteronomy, it says, it's in 6, it says, you shall fear the Lord, fear only the Lord your God, and shall worship him and swear only by his name. See, the Pharisees knew this. And so the Pharisees worked this system a bit. You ever worked the system? I've worked the system a lot. You know, I didn't technically say that. I kind of said this. And the Pharisees were good at it. They were good at working the system. They're like, well, we didn't swear by God. We kind of swore by heaven or the temple, and it's not quite the same thing. And so they could promise and say that they promised to do something, or they swore by heaven that they would do something, and then they allowed themselves an escape plan where they said, listen, I didn't swear by God. I didn't swear by the Lord, so technically I'm good. And so that's kind of how the Pharisees worked. And so you can see why Jesus is saying, like, these are the things I'm dealing with, and I want to deal with them in a way so that you understand by doing what the Pharisees are doing, it's no good. I need you to move past that. I need you to move in a different direction so that you can follow me more clearly. Long gone are the days when a handshake would seal a contract, when a gentleman's word was his bond, even going to court and swearing on the Bible, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Like it's gone. You can't ever know if that's the truth or not. A signature on a marriage certificate, on a check. No contract, there's no longer a guarantee. Just all of those things. Like you can breach all of that stuff and it's not a big deal. Bill Hybels puts it this way. He says, let's face it, at one time or another, everyone is tempted to fudge a little bit, right? Everyone is tempted to fudge. None of us is totally honest all the time. We occasionally exaggerate. We tend to break our commitments from time to time. We can trace this kind of misbehavior all the way back to the opening scene of the Bible, when Adam fudged by blaming Eve for the way they'd violated God's command. Ever since the earliest days of human history, the world has feasted on fudge. And we still do it. And so there's a problem with these guys and these oaths that he's taken. And Jesus is warning, he's like, listen, let's get past that. Let's move past that. And let's realize that what you say is of the utmost importance. And so there's this pattern for the followers of Jesus. And it's this pattern of integrity. And as we read on, and starting in verse 34, he says, but I say to you, make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Nor shall you make an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your statement be yes or no. Anything beyond these is evil. And so Jesus ends this little part, and he's just saying, here's the deal. Let your yes be yes, and your no be no. When you manipulate words to get your own way, you go wrong. Jesus' point here is very, very profound. God does not acknowledge separate categories of sacred and secular. He just doesn't. It's all the same. And so whether you're swearing by God or you're just saying something, there's no difference here. All truth is God's truth. All creation is God's creation. So every lie, therefore, is a lie against God, and every false promise is in some way dishonors his name. Life cannot be divided into neat, watertight compartments. We can't use one kind of language in the church and another kind of language in the office. There can't be one kind of ethics in the church and another kind of ethics in the business world. It just can't be. Because here's the deal. God is everywhere. In every activity of life, he hears not only the words which are spoken in his name, he enters every conversation that you have. All promises are sacred because all promises are made in the presence of God. All of them. Truth has no degree or shades, and half-truth is a whole lie. So he says all this, and so we're looking at all this, and we go, well, why is that so important? I've gotten a long way by bending the truth a little bit. I've gotten pretty far in my life by telling some half-truths and spending some time not telling the whole story so that I could get ahead. We've all done it. We're all there. If I ask you to raise your hand, 100% of us should be up here raising our hands saying, yeah, we have lied. We have manipulated the truth. We are people who aren't honest at all times. It's part of the fallen part of our life. It just is. And so because we're all there, we understand, and we dismiss it at times. We at times in our lives just go, it's no big deal. It's just a little thing. It saved my wife from yelling at me for a little bit. It's just a little thing. My dad didn't know about it. Not a big deal. I mean, there are still things I'd have to apologize to him for a long time because there are probably still some things that I've done that I've never told him, that I've just kind of withheld information from him, and I'd be afraid to tell him because I think he would spank me today. And I'm bigger than he is, and I still I don't know. I don't want you to spank me, Dad. But so why is this integrity thing so important? Why is it that we have to try to lay bare and be as truthful as we possibly can be. As a matter of fact, Jesus tells us in all things we need to be truthful in all things. And we look, and in our minds we rationalize like, well, I can be truthful, but man, that's going to hurt. And so I'm not going to say exactly what I think because I think it's going to save them their feelings. And at the end of the day, I just don't want to ruffle any feathers. See, we're all there. We all say those kind of things. But here's the truth. Integrity is important because it affects our relationship with God. God is holy, and he calls us to be holy. God desires from us all this truth in our innermost being. That's no joke. Truth in our innermost being. That's not just truth coming out of your mouth like the Pharisees or the scribes. That's not just speaking this thing and hoping that it comes true. It is saying God's desire from each one of us is that in our innermost spot, in who we are at our core, if you've been changed by Jesus, he's saying, if you've been changed by me, in your innermost core, God wants truth. And it's serious. Like, that's a serious thing. He says, among the things he especially hates is a lying tongue. Indeed, the destiny for liars is the lake of fire. So if we care about our eternal destiny, let our words be yes and let our words be no, because it depends and it impacts our relationship with God. It also impacts our relationships with one another. Listen, growing up, I told you I was a liar. I lied on many occasions. Daily, weekly, when it suited me. And if I brought my dad up here and I asked him some questions, he would say that it impacted our relationship. Because I was not forthright, because I tried to deceive at many different angles, it was a long time before he probably fully trusts me. I think we're at a point now where he fully trusts me. He shook his head yes, so I'm going to take that as a good sign. But the truth is, like, I spent a lot of years deceiving and breaking trust, and so it was difficult for him to look at me and believe what I was going to say when I told him one day, hey, Dad, I think I want to go to Bible college because I feel like this is what I'm called to do. He was probably looking at it with a crooked eye going, man, are you sure that's what you want to do? You's a liar. Thief, you all kinds of things. Why? I mean, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for something that, I don't know, I'm not sure? And against his better judgment, he said, yeah. He said, okay, I'll help you. I know that had to be tough for him because from a personal standpoint, he couldn't trust me. He couldn't trust what I was going to say. He couldn't trust what I was going to do because I would say and do anything to make it smooth. There's a book called Visioneering, and it's by Andy Stanley. He's a minister of a big church down in Atlanta and many different places. He's got a bunch of churches all over the place. But I really like the book Visioneering. I just think it's a good book. And he says this. He says, moral authority is critical, non-negotiable, can't be without ingredient of sustained influence. Moral authority is the credibility you earn by walking your talk. It is the relationship other people see between what you say and what you do, between what you claim to be and what you are. Nothing compensates for a lack of moral authority. No amount of compensation, wealth, accomplishment, education, talent, position can make up for the lack of moral authority. We will not allow ourselves to be influenced by those who lack moral authority in our eyes. Inconsistency between what is said and what is done inflicts a mortal wound on a person's influence. For this reason, moral authority is a fragile thing. It takes a lifetime to earn, but can be lost in a moment. And once it's lost, it's almost impossible to restore. And I see people shaking their heads because you know that's true. You have friends, you have family, you have people around you who have broken trust in such a way that it has wounded you. And Jesus is telling us, let's not be that kind of person. Let's not be like these people who break their word and they use words to manipulate to get to their advantage. Let's not be like these people. Let's be people who say yes and no, and we mean it. And the way we walk and the way we talk look exactly the same. Because integrity is important. So how do we grow in integrity? From a reformed liar, the first thing you got to do is you got to own it. You got to acknowledge the struggle that you have between words and action. We're gonna put a list up, and I want you to reflect on this for a second. Think about how easy it is to make these statements, and a lot of them just simply aren't true. Think about how you feel when someone says them to you, like this: "I promise. I'll pay you back tomorrow. It'll only take a minute of your time. I'll call you back. This is going to hurt you more than it hurts me." We parents use that one all the time. "It's finished and sitting on my desk. The check is in the mail. I'll be praying for you. I mean this sincerely. Trust me." And as a minister, like, I look at this list, and as a person who spends time with people and have people bring burdens to me, and we do this on the phone, in person, one of the ones that I used to struggle with was this idea of I'll be praying for you. I used to say that all the time, and I'd forget to pray for them. I'd want to say it, and I'd want to pray for them, but then I'd just forget. I'd get home at night doing things with the family and all that stuff, and I would forget. And so what I started doing is, instead of saying "I'll pray for you," is I'll either not say anything and I'll pray for them silently. Like, I see things on Facebook all the time, prayers for different things from people in our congregation, things like that. And so I'll say a quick prayer for them. Or if someone's talking to me and just says, "Hey, can you pray for me? Can you just keep me in your prayers?" Instead of saying, "Yes, I'll do that," I'll just go, "Hey, can I pray for you right now?" And it's been the best thing that I can do, because I've had some really good conversations based off of that, where I just stopped and I just prayed for that person right then and there. Not tell them this little white lie, not a purposeful lie, but if I don't pray for them because I forget, it's like a little lie to them, right? And so how do you feel? I mean, has someone said that to you and you ever doubted that someone was actually going to do what they said they were going to do? Like, this job is done. How does that make you feel? Have you ever said it and not meant it to somebody else? And so the truth is, we've got to acknowledge this in us. We have to, if you want to grow in integrity, you acknowledge these times where you have shortcomings in your life, where you have spots where you know your integrity is a little bit in question. Maybe not by anybody else to know it, but you know it. And so when you acknowledge those kind of things, and you can start to work on them, you commit yourself to telling the truth. Someone says reliability builds credibility. Reliability builds credibility. And there's not a more true statement. It is so true. If you're in the business world, you know it. Even us in the church, if you say you're going to be here to volunteer for something and you don't show up, in the back of our mind, we put a little mark beside your name. Like, Daryl said he was going to be here. I don't know about him. He's a little questionable. And so we'll keep that in the back of our mind. And then the second time, it's like, "Oh, yeah, I ain't ever asking Daryl to do anything again." Sorry, Daryl. I didn't mean that. But see, y'all know Daryl. See, look. Y'all know Daryl. Look. Y'all are laughing because you know Daryl. Again, Daryl, I'm just kidding. I don't even know where you're sitting. Sorry, bud. King David puts it this way. He says, "Lord, who may live in your sanctuary? Who may live in your holy hill? Whose walk is blameless, who keeps his oath even when it hurts." And so, your integrity is important. What's behind what you say with your actions is important. What's underneath. And so your integrity and your credibility will grow if you just commit to yourself that, man, I'm going to be truthful. And even says, even truthful when it hurts. That's what David said in Psalms. Like, be truthful, even when it hurts. And somehow our relationships will be improved if we can love one another enough to be truthful with one another, and not make false claims about things, and not making promises that we can't keep. When we're truthful, it's important. And so God's concern is that we become habitual truth tellers, whatever the cost. It will not be at the expense of our integrity nor the honor of Jesus that we don't tell the truth, because he'll see us one day and we'll have to account for that. So let's do it. Let's make every single word that we speak a truthful word. Unadorned, unqualified with anything. May your word be as good as the signature that you put on a piece of paper. Let's mean what we say and say what we mean, whatever it costs. And it'll have a revolutionary impact on the integrity, on our reputation, and above all else, because this is the most important thing, on our witness with other people. Listen, if you are known as a truthful person, it goes a long way. In the business world, in your personal life, if you are known as a truthful person, you will get more business, you will have more friends, because people will understand and want to be around you and know the things that you say and the way that you act and the way you represent yourself are all truthful. And it goes a long way. And so, in ending this morning, I was thinking about this. And I don't know what any other way to end this, but to just say, man, if God is putting it on your heart that you need to go talk to somebody because you've been untruthful with them, you've promised them things and fallen through, and you need to ask for forgiveness from somebody, and do it. It's like when Jesus said, if you know your brother has something against you, leave your offering at the altar and go and reconcile with your brother. If you got that stuff against you, if you know that you've wronged somebody in that way, and you know that you've said things that are untruthful, and you have an opportunity to reconcile that, they may not even know that you lied to them, but you can look them in the face and you can just say, listen, there have been some times over our life that I've not been truthful with you. It's not just one, not just two, maybe several occasions. And I don't need to pinpoint them. I just want you to know that I'm sorry for lying to you. And I promise from this day forward, I'm going to be an honest person with you. And I'm going to do everything I can. If I make a promise to you, if I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I say that I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. And so if you have that, if you feel convicted by that, if God's been putting it on your heart and your mind that maybe that's what you need to do, it might be a spouse, it might be a child, it might be a parent, it might be a friend, it might be a coworker, it might be an employee. Whoever it is, go to that person with a broken heart and ask for forgiveness. And let them know that you want to restore relationship and that you will be seeking God's strength to become a person who keeps their word in every situation. And that's the kind of people we need to be. If we're going to make an impact in Mount Washington, in Bullock County, in this surrounding area, if we are going to make an impact in that, we have to be truthful people. We have to be people who, in everything we do, we shine the light of Jesus.